Aloha, my name's Anna Covert, and I'm coming to you from my battleship here on the beautiful island of Oahu. This week on the Covert Code, the topic is Unlocking Your True Potential, and my special guest is Karen McDaniel, founder of Empowering Executives. With a Ph.D. in organizational behavior and over 20 years of experience, KarYren blends academic insight with real-world leadership expertise. She's helped countless of executives turn challenges into opportunities for business growth. Today, she's here to share her vision and how we can all unlock our true potential, both professionally and in business. Thanks so much for being here.
Hey, aloha, Anna. Thank you so much for having me today.
Aloha. It's so nice we actually get to do this on Aloha Friday. So it's an extra special aloha.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. So to get us started, we always like to start with just a little bit of your personal story, how you got to be where you are today.
Oh, wow. That would probably go way back until I was about 5 years old. When I was 5 years old, I knew I wanted to be a teacher, helper, help other people with finding knowledge. So my grandfather was full-time National Guard, and they were getting rid of this chalkboard that they had had for many years. It was old, kind of falling apart. He put it back together and he brought it home for me. So when I would come home from kindergarten, I would line up my baby dolls and my cats at this little table and teach them everything I had learned in school that day. So that's kind of where I started in this personal growth and wanting to help other people grow and learn throughout life.
Wow, that's so cute.
Yeah. And from there, I fulfilled that dream. I was really good in accounting and thought I wanted to be a high school business teacher, had a degree in management, but there wasn't a very high demand for a business teacher in the area that I was in at the time. There might be one in the high school, and she wasn't planning to retire anytime soon. So I added on mathematics. I was a high school math teacher for a couple of years while I was getting my MBA and doing college algebra for a community college 2 nights a week. And as I did the community college, I thought, I'm kind of enjoying teaching at the higher level and the older adults. So then I had a professor ask me, KarYren, have you ever thought about getting a PhD? And I look around, me? I'm just a small town girl from West Tennessee. So anyway, long story short, he connected me with a department chair. I I learned about what a PhD program was. I learned about all the opportunities that I could have if I pursued a PhD and income wise, what it would mean. So I made the bold move, went for the challenge. And I guess in a sense, the part of the rest is history as I went on to have over 22, 25 years of experience in higher education, teaching in colleges of business in Tennessee, Virginia, and Arkansas. Absolutely loved it. Loved teaching leadership development to um, graduate level students in MBA programs. I would have students ages 20 to 70 in the group and many different cultures represented in the classes. But as I went along, I had an opportunity to get out of academia and go into executive search. And I found that I really enjoyed taking the concepts that I had taught in academia and doing consulting and bringing it out to the corporate world because it's the same leadership concepts.
Right.
It's just now I'm applying it at a higher level. So I started my own business. I had actually started it in 2011 and kind of did consulting with disc behavioral profiles on the side in academia. I did a lot of talks for chambers of commerce and different community organizations and so forth. So kind of just led into my now passion in life that I'm really enjoying and writing a book. So you and I talked about that on our first call, and you've been very successful in writing a book. So you're inspiring me as I'm in the process of writing my book and looking very forward to this new journey.
So why did you decide that now was a time to write a book in your busy journey?
Well, I feel like I have a period in my life right now where I'm passionate about doing it. I'm excited about doing it. I've thought about doing it for a long time. Instead of thinking, I'm ready to come to action and actually write it. I feel like it's a good time personally and professionally that I actually can carve out a time to go through this. And I've been through kind of a personal growth journey the last couple of years. So I feel like it's a good time to write about it to help other people go through their personal growth journey.
So tell me about your process and you sent me one of those evaluations to do and did it tell us about that.
So we're talking about the DISC
Yeah.
behavioral profiles. It was invented by William Marston many, many years ago. I got certified by TTI Success Insights, and I've been doing DISC since 2011. So when I first started the company, I also used it in the classroom, and it's used all over the world. I think you can give it in about 42 different languages. So even if you do not speak English as your first language, you can still get, your native language in it. But it just kind of tells you what your communication style is, and it helps you with emotional intelligence and learning what other people's style is and how you can find balance in communicating with someone with a different style than you.
Okay. And do you see any, similarities? Like what kind of executives are drawn to you? Do you have any specific industries you service or do you have that sweet spot? Who's your best customer?
I think it's the person who is ready to make that next step in life. So they've been working in this mid-career and they're ready to be this emerging leader, take a bold move and overcome fears that might be holding them back. I had a client ask me once, what was my greatest fear? I had to give that a lot of thought because I've always thought of of course we all make mistakes. No one's perfect. I'm not a perfectionist, but I always strived for excellence and strive to do better. So I always looked at it as the glass isn't half empty or half full. Most people raise their hand, yes, my glass is half full. I'm an optimist. Well, you missed the point. The glass is refillable. So I always looked at failures like that. There are opportunities for growth. Instead of looking backwards at it, how can we use this to be better in the future? So that's kind of my thought process on um, personal growth and the person who needs this type of, whether it be coaching, consulting, building a team. Oftentimes it's maybe a new CEO that not only needs personal growth in their new role, but they also need help building their team. Because if you have the same behavioral style, everyone on your team's the same as you are, then you're missing out because not everyone's great at everything. You need people who are going to complement you, complement your skills, and who are good at different things than you are. So DISC helps you know what your strengths and weaknesses are, but it also helps you understand your team and what their strengths and weaknesses may be and how you can better communicate as a team.
I have a question. So this disc, it was created. When did you say it was created? The first disc survey was 20.
When was it created? Oh goodness, many years ago. I don't know the date off the top of my head.
Yeah, so my question is, as we evolve, and especially with technology and AI and just communication, because I'm a communication specialist and communication's changed a lot and continues to change. And I've got a 11-year-old daughter now, and just watching kind of that experience of how they communicate. And, is there a need to update this test at all? Do you think that it is the representation of our current human behavior?
I think it's a core that has transcended through. I mean, it's like a core behavioral concept, and young people may communicate in different media. Maybe it's social media, maybe it's texting, but it's still the basic concepts of how you communicate and what your style is and what your level of emotional intelligence is. So it's about knowing yourself and your communication style, knowing others and how to manage their communication styles. So yeah, I believe it's core. Now, there is a manual, a disc manual that TTI has published, and it goes through. There's a whole chapter on the validity of the test and how they have gone through that whole process, and that might be a little much to get into today.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I mean, I think this is about knowing what your natural style is inherently, what you're born with, and then also how the environment shapes your communication style.
Interesting. Yeah, I was thinking when I was going through the test, it made me think at the end that, it was all words and with emojis being, such a big part, it'd be like almost like rate the what emojis would you use, in an order, and just wanted to see your perspective on if they ever evolve these kinds of tests,
Well, that's funny. I could see the different styles picking different emojis, and actually, there may be one or two styles that wouldn't even pick an emoji.
Right. Like I don't do emojis. Like, do you emoji? Do you not emoji? Like how many? Like all the way.
Yes, and mine and your style might tend to go with more emojis, and someone else's maybe not no emojis. They maybe
Right.
appear something, and an exclamation point means something else. So yes, you have to be careful in verbal, nonverbal communication.
Or even just how communications change. I mean, now a lot of people they don't want to use their voice or they won't call someone. They only want to text or they only want a message or email. And it's just so interesting how it's evolving. So would you say what is one of the, do you have a common type when you start doing these behavioral tests or do your clients kind of fall into a statistical norm of a certain category or is it just all over the place?
All people exhibit all four behavioral styles. It's just in varying degrees and intensity. And, again, it may depend on what your natural style is versus how your environment may shape your personality. And maybe to give you an example of that, my I'll share what my style is.
Okay.
I'm a natural DIC. D is kind of dominant, competitive, sees the big picture, moves fast, very task oriented. The I is the influencer, outgoing, extroverted, also fast moving, a little more people oriented. And then the C is more the analytical perfectionist, cautious, compliant type person who rules, policies, procedures, and so forth. But my adapted style is DCI. So the C went up in my environment, but if you think back, so I've been through a Ph.D. program, I've been in academia for all these years, and it's about doing research, paying attention to detail, and a lot of statistics when you're doing the research. So it made sense being in the academic environment with a lot of committees, rules, policies, procedures, that C was stronger in the adapted environmental style. And my mom and dad are both very high SCs, and I didn't mention the S. The S is the steady, dependable, agreeable style. So my mom and dad are very high SCs, and I'm a high DIC, and so I kind of attribute that C to my mom and dad. Yeah, it's kind of where did KarYren come from?
Well, that's interesting. So what do you think is one of the biggest challenges facing leaders today?
Biggest challenges, and well, from my perspective, what I'm doing is communication.
Mhm.
And, sometimes a word may mean something different to one person than it does another person because of the reference point that they've come from. It's important your communication style. So, for example, a D may be more blunt, specific, and to the point. Well, that might be intimidating to someone who's more calm and agreeable and steady. And then vice versa, that person may need a little bit more of a warm environment and talk about personal things before you get into business. And the D's sitting here thinking, oh, let's get to the point. This is a
We're at their watch. This is not. We're wasting time here. We're burning up.
yes,
You know.
exactly. So, to me, I think one of the biggest challenges is communication and making sure that your message is getting across to other people the way that you want it to, and making sure that they understand what you're trying to say, not just hearing what you are saying.
I think that's a really interesting point too, because a lot of what we do in marketing is we talk about now the switch of communication from being oral or one way or very inclusive to now with groups and social media places, and it's a total different paradigm. But they people are not necessarily hearing, they're reading. And when you read something to yourself and then you speak it aloud, the meaning changes a lot of times.
Mhm.
So a lot of times what we'll tell people is if they're reading an email, it's like if before you respond, right, read it out loud
Mm.
and hear it. Because it's a lot different when even if you say it to yourself internally and externally, it feels a lot different. And because it can get misconstrued easily.
Yes, and another thing that's really interesting you said that is oftentimes you'll have, whether it's purposeful or not, you'll have a lot of emotion in an email. So
Yes.
the way you read someone else's email, there may be some emotion in it on your end, but they didn't mean for it to be. Or maybe they meant for it to be, and you take it as a different emotion than they meant for it to be. So I've always kind of had this rule of thumb: if there is an email exchange and it does feel kind of emotional or heated, let it sit for whatever your time frame is. I used to say 24 hours. That might be a little slow this day and time, but let it sit for a little bit. Type up your response and then go back and read your response before you send, and start taking out the emotion and stick to the facts and the logic of it and getting to the point, and let things simmer down and you accomplish the solution as opposed to going back and forth with heated emails.
Absolutely. And I find that I just in the last, I guess, maybe 3 or 4 months started using Chat PGT for some things. And that is a really good one. If you write an email and you want to change your tone, you can just pop it in there. You could write the scathing email, not that I ever do that, but you could write whatever you want and then pop it into chat and just be like, make this more professional, or less emotional. And it does a great job of taking what you wrote and like making it, softer.
Right. And, even face to face communication, I mean, in any work context, you're going to have difficult conversations, you're going to have crises that arise. So it's really good for whether it's the CEO that I'm coaching or someone else in the C suite, anyone who's managing a team, you have to know how to handle difficult conversations. And most styles do not enjoy having difficult conversations. So, but you have to, because if you avoid them, it might be good for the very short term to let your emotions calm down. But if you keep avoiding it, it's going to cause more problems and it's going to escalate the problem you have right now. So it is important that you have that communication to help resolve conflict. And I have this really great book that I read years ago on crucial conversations, talking when the stakes are high. And it's good to go in and start on neutral ground, and starting with something along the lines of, let's talk about something that's important to both of us, instead of coming in and saying, well, we have this problem, we've talked about it 15 times, and you know going in, calm voice, taking out the emotion. Let's start on neutral ground, and how can we talk through this situation?
You're right. That is so common. Like when it's like a broken record of, and people get stuck in a loop, and it's like, okay, like how do we get to the next step? That's a great little segue point for communication. It always makes me also. I don't see it as much as I used to, but people don't realize that when you put things in caps or underline it, it is like you're screaming through the computer. You know?
Yes, the general consensus is that all caps is considered yelling or screaming. However, there are some styles or different, whether it's different generations, for example, that they put things in all caps just because they're trying to emphasize something that's really important, and it's not meant in a negative screaming way. It's meant in a oh, I really mean this strongly,
Right.
kind of in a positive way, but you have to know the person and know their communication style to understand that. Because if, like you said, at first impression, it may be, whoa, why are you yelling at me?
Yeah. So, you work with some organizations like SHRM. What does that stand for, actually?
SHRM, Society for Human Resource Management. I actually was a member of SHRM for many, many years. And I used to be on a local SHRM board when I was at one of the universities I taught at as the college coordinator position on the board and trying to help students be involved in the local SHRM chapter. So there's national, there are local chapters, and then there was a student chapter. So that was kind of my position was kind of pulling all of them together and giving experiences to young people at the time.
And what kind of experiences do you guys put together? Is it like a training organization or?
Um, and this one is more a past tense for me, as I'm not as active in it as I used to be, but it would be putting on local programming and bringing in human resource managers across the area to speak about different topics going on in organizations, whether it be, things like technology or how to resolve conflict in organizations. And there were a lot of lawyers who would come in and talk about different corporate business type legal issues that occurred.
Oh, fun times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Can you share like one of maybe your success stories from working with your organization empowering executives where leader development really, came into tangible business result?
Yeah, it was interesting. I had a woman who had just become is a high level manager position. And I had been coaching her to kind of go through the process to make this bold move to apply for the position. So forth, she got it. And literally, her first day on the job, no joke, first day on the job, one of her employees started emailing the entire, I guess it was department, and talking about how he was mistreated and harassed and so forth. Sending this out to everyone now. Well, if she had ignored it, then of course it would have become more of a problem. So she went to the individual. There's something that we need to discuss that's important to both of us. So she called HR, another the supervisor over her, and a couple other people, brought them all in the room and said, let's talk about this. Wow, we're going to have a difficult conversation. And she's prepared for it because we'd been doing some conflict resolution. We had talked about disc styles. And long story short, this person felt like the former manager was trying to get him fired. And no one in this meeting had any knowledge of that. So he had created this story in his mind that, people were harassing him or trying to get him fired. And it wasn't the case at all. So she was prepared day one to handle something like that. And she never had an issue with him again. I mean, it became a very quick resolution to a problem that seemed to have been simmering for a long time before she took the position.
Wow.
So
Totally.
it was about, it was about communication. It was about calming the environment a little bit. So having, this open, authentic communication and just taking the emotion out. What are the facts here? Let's talk about what actually is, not, what you think might be happening. And it ended well.
It's really good. And one thing, the things that you said that really I gravitated toward was the idea of getting everyone in the room together. And I think even and myself in my organization, there was, until recently, I think I read another book from one of our friends at Forbes. And it was about that, like that everyone should be together when you do a conflict resolution. And that wasn't necessarily my process at the beginning. I always was kind of an information gatherer. I'm like, okay, let me call this person and get their perspective. Let me call this person and get their perspective, thinking that that was like protecting people, right? But then what I realized, or I think you're probably on this venture too, that that's not good because then that fosters more, blaming and pointing fingers, but when everyone's together and they're exposed at the same time, then the truth really does kind of we get to the truth faster.
And it may depend on the situation. In this particular one, that worked well for her. But, if you're a new manager, collecting information from different people about different things and getting everyone's perspective on things is great. But I do think you need to have some point where everyone does come together and you discuss the different points that you've learned, get everyone's perspective on it as much as possible.
Yeah. What other tips do you have for listeners on how to, unleash their potential and become the best them?
I've been really working with some clients on mindset. And it kind of goes back to that, is your glass half empty or half full? Well, it doesn't matter. It's refillable. So keeping your mind positive, and I love watching for different leadership quotes, whether it's on LinkedIn or someone sends me one, and I have this vast uh, folder full of probably for probably 400 plus or minus different leadership quotes along the way, and just things that keep your mind positive, that helps you, instead of saying something's impossible, I'm possible. Just always looking for ways to better yourself. And another thing I've kind of been working on that I would throw in here is taking care of yourself and being authentic with yourself. For example, I'm sure you've been on an airplane and heard the flight attendant say, you know, put your oxygen mask on first before you help other people, because if you run out of oxygen, you can't help other people. Well, our first instinct is to try to put oxygen on other people oftentimes, and you can't help a lot of people when you do that. So there's a lot of truth to that, and making sure you're taking care of yourself so that you can help take care of other people, whether you're a CEO or HR manager or academic or whatever the case. Being able to take care of your true authentic self. And if you're not being true and authentic to yourself, then are you helping other people? So in other words, are you following your passion while you're telling other people to follow their passion, or are you following yours?
Yeah. Yes, Jen, I'm sure that we're going to see some of these quotes appear in your upcoming book, I hope.
Oh, I feel like that you will probably see a lot.
Yeah, I love that when a lot of books I've read, they start with a quote, and I've always thought that was nice. I also am someone who a big vision boarder, and every like maybe like once or every 6 months or whatnot, I'll make a vision board and put it up, or I'll print out. I'm working on my second book right now, and I print out the cover and put it up so I can like look at it, and just putting up inspirational things around you to manifest that future self. And really, I think a lot of it comes down to being, we talked a little bit about before we got on camera how much I like Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he says that there's a saying you could say that, I am worthy, right? Just saying it, that you are worthy of greatness, and you are worthy anything that, you want, you're worthy to receive that. And remembering that, because it's, a lot of people, I think they feel like, to your point, oh, well, they can go after their dream, but why can't I go after mine? Well, that's a you thing. You have to believe that you're worthy of it.
Exactly. And it's interesting you mentioned the word manifesting. I listened to a Mel Robbins podcast not too long ago, and she had an expert on, and I'm blank on his name at the moment. But it was really good about manifesting. And if you can see in my background here, I have some paintings. So probably 8 months ago, I started doing painting. And throughout this journey, I never in a million years dreamed that I would be painting. Never done this before. So I'm trying to open up a different side of my brain, get outside of my comfort zone. But as I'm painting things that I dream about and that I want to do. Like one of them is a picture behind me of Italy. I want to go to Italy someday. There's a picture of on the beach. I love the beach. I want to go to the beach. And kind of like you're on the beach there. I want to be in your background. But as I'm painting, though, I'm asking myself, what is this teaching me about leadership? What the way the colors come together, what do some of the concepts mean? How can this be appropriate in leadership situations? How can this help with conflict resolution? How can this help the CEO understand big picture and the details in the scenario. So it's been kind of fun and an interesting learning journey for me and thinking about things in different ways.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, and have you always been an art lover, or did it just come to you one day? This like the universe just gave you this idea that you should start painting?
The universe just gave me this idea. Back in, I guess it was November. My mom and I were in, here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I thought, let's do something just out of the box, fun and crazy. They had a paint with a twist, and we
Why would you drink wine and paint?
yes, wine and paint.
Oh, fun. We have that here too.
Had a glass of wine, and we painted. And I said, you know what? It doesn't matter if this thing turns out good or not. We are just going to have fun, and I loved it. And then I decided, you know what, I'm gonna start doing, paint by numbers. I don't care if they look good or not. I want to do something that's just new, fun, and different. And I absolutely love it. And I actually would love to actually start doing freehand painting and do a painting class, maybe find a painting retreat.
So you should. So fun. I was only almost went to art school actually. My mom's Swedish, and on her side we have two famous artists, and I went to prep school in California, and I was doing AP art, and I had a, portfolio, and I always thought that I would end up in art school, but then I realized that I didn't want, though it was stressful for me to think about doing art for the purpose of being sold, right? And I didn't want that. I wanted to do art for me, but then digital advertising or marketing is a great way to marry those concepts because I get to build websites and be creative all the time. So I thought that was the right
Very
step, but
you
very
went to you went to Bentley University?
I did. Yeah.
That's Boston.
Yeah, Boston. Well, so I guess what is there anything you have your book coming up? Is there anything else coming for you? Are you planning on doing it with travel, surely, but are you public speaking, or is there any other things? I don't think we maybe talked about a podcast potentially coming out.
Yes, I am. I'm not doing any public speaking in the next few weeks because I really am focusing right now on trying to get the book finished and just really concentrating on that. But after that, yes, I do plan to do public speaking, um, podcasts probably within the next 9 months to a year. So very excited about that. I'm dreaming big and hope to catch excellence along the way.
Well, I'm sure you will. Thanks so much for being here today with us.
Hey, thank you so much. It was so much fun.
So to learn more about empowering executives, you can visit them online, and you can connect with Karen on LinkedIn. And please join me next week as I interview another industry expert in a topic to help you succeed on and offline. If you like this podcast, please subscribe. You can find us on the Covert Code, any of your streaming services, and YouTube. I'll see you in the pixels. Aloha. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Covert Code podcast. To stay up to date with all our future episodes, follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means everything to us. Please take a moment to leave a review and share our content with your friends and colleagues on social media. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more digital innovators like yourself. See you in the pixels. Aloha.